Let's talk. What you wanna talk about? Let's talk. What you wanna talk about? Kitchen talk. Let's talk. What you wanna talk about? Kitchen talk. Let's talk. Conversations that cool. Kitchen talk. Let's talk. What you wanna talk about? Kitchen talk. Let's talk. Conversations that cool. Let's talk. What you wanna talk about? Let's talk. What you wanna talk about?
Hello.
How you doing, world?
I know, right? I'm so super excited to have you guys. This is Kitchen Talk CTC, Conversations That Cook, and I am here with some amazing young people. I'm super excited for this conversation because, y'all helped me out a whole lot. A whole lot. So it is super, super exciting to have you guys on tonight. Hopefully, my co-hosts will join us, but if they don't, you know what? I think we can handle it. I think we'll be fine. And we're going to get right into it. So I am here with Maya. Is that right? Maya Dennis. Yeah, I knew I was going to mess it up. Miya Dennis. And with Christopher Mathews. Christopher is one of my faves. I love him so much.
Thank you. This is my second time on.
It is.
Appreciate the invitation. I know I wasn't able to come on. Was it last week or 2 weeks ago?
Yep, but we're going to get right into that. We're going to get right into that same conversation. I thought it would be great to hear from Gen Z on what we doing right now.
I forgot I'm Gen Z.
Yeah, you're Gen Z still.
Yeah. So last week we started the conversation because it was we were 2 days from the election. And so I titled the show The Morning After, even though we were the morning after. But I titled the show The Morning After just for us to come on and talk about what we felt like when we woke up on November 6th with the results that we saw, the results that we got, and where we're going. And so it was a very interesting conversation. And so I would like to know how you guys felt the morning after.
It was certainly interesting. It was certainly interesting because it was a lot going on that night before. Everybody was up. My building that morning started at 2 a.m, actually, because whilst the election, everybody texting, fire alarm goes off. And I think that really marked the beginning of the 6th, because after that, fire alarm went off twice that day. And then for some reason, it was just raining all day. Campus was almost dead. It was like you could feel everybody's emotions without feeling them. Everybody was kind of just going through this almost like internal turmoil. Whether do we talk about it? Do we not talk about it? Some people were waiting for their silk presses. So it rained. If you had one, I'm sorry. But I think for personally, it was very interesting because with this being the first election that I'm a part of, like I was actively out helping people register to vote, helping people campaign, looking for these amendments to be pushed through in every way possible. It was like I had an attachment to seeing it through as well as everybody else, right? So while one hand, as like we're adults, we do want to still regulate ourselves and not allow politics to influence how we respond to people in everyday conversation. But for some reason, this election did disturb a lot. I remember I was walking to the Trio building for my first class, and one of the girls I know, she was just sitting outside on the bench, completely just like you could tell everything about her was just saddened. It was very, very like I felt it in a way. So where I was trying to kind of like, go about my day, shield off emotions. It became almost overwhelming, even just sitting there talking with her, just hearing like that this is a very emotional day. That caused a certain sensitivity that going from that day forward, it's almost like when people were saying, hey, we should have the day off of school, we might have needed it. We might have needed it because emotions were high, conversation in class immediately starting before you could even talk about a topic. It became very provoking because to me, one of the more important things is that it's okay if you don't have an understanding. It's okay if you're still learning, but ignorance can be chosen sometimes rather than bliss. So even in that first class, there were some people a little more out of tune with the significance of what we were talking about. Even with the Department of Education, for example, the risk of it being dismantled could lead to our FAFSA being taking away a lot of education opportunities for students. So for someone to say out of their mouth, hey, I graduate in 4 years, that doesn't impact me. What about everybody else, right? So I think for the rest of that day, I won't take too long, but for the rest of that day, it really set a tone of me personally. I had to self isolate because even going in government class, I could not really sit there. I normally am very active talking in class, but I really could not vocalize what I wanted to say in my mind.
Mm,
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
I think that was a great meal. You did that was a great monologue right there.
Thank you.
I think I'm just gonna piggyback off what you said. Honestly, it was more so like we were defeated. Seeing a lot of our people with that defeated spirit, walking on campus and just interacting with people. Yeah, some people saying we're gonna, wake up in the morning and we're gonna have chains on. We're going back to slavery, et cetera, et cetera. So on one hand, for me personally, it was like, okay, it was sad to see our people in a defeated state. But on another hand, seeing what the future holds, what's this next 4 years hold, I think it holds a lot of organization for us. I think this next 4 years is going to be really a make it or break it for Black America. It's either going to be we're going to organize to get out the situation we're in, not just politics, because as we see, politics and voting is not just going to be the only way to get out of this situation. And I kind of talked about this last time we were on, 2 years ago. Politics is not going to be the only way that we're going to move forward out of this situation. And I think that's what was very telling for this event. Now, at the same time, it was sad to see some of the amendments not pass. I know we were pushing for, like marijuana was on the ballot, abortion was on the ballot, homestead, and all those amendments on the ballot and everything like that. But at the same time, I think it's just a moment for us to go back to the drawing board, see what we have, see what pieces we have that are working, what's not working, and what has been working, and just evaluating what we need to do to go forward. That we not only are just in a position where we're like playing defense, because it almost seems like we're always playing defense, but like going into a offensive position where it's like, okay, we're actively doing something, we're being proactive in our steps, proactive in our lifestyles. Because I know it's a lot of people's issues right now is after this election, it's like, I just give up on life. I don't want to, I'm a drink, I'm a smoke, I'm a, John, that's literally a lot of people right now. So I think it's back to the drawing boards, what works, what doesn't work, and let's figure it out.
Very well
That's
said.
so, yeah, so very true. So, Chris is a graduate of Florida A&M University and in grad school now. That's right, right? I'm right.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. And then Mia is first. Did you tell me first year?
I'm a first year pre law
First
English
year.
student.
And so, was this your first time voting?
Absolutely, yes.
Oh, wow.
It definitely was. That's why I definitely did early voting because I know a lot of students were waiting until election day to have that real feel. Hey, I'm going in there in the polls. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I had to go in the early ballot. But it was definitely something interesting being in my first time because it was being so involved with everything going on when it came to organizing that voting had it had a different impact on me.
Hmm.
Even just reading the amendments, just seeing how very weirdly amendment 3 and 4 were had a very long, lengthy article to them, whereas the other amendments, I think I definitely do appreciate the fact that they do allow you to use your devices while voting, because that's how I did a lot of my research at that moment, because we did know about like certain amendments, but other ones I was not aware of. And even when it came down to certain judicial figures, even the judges that were up for retention, it was like, on one hand, if I just look at a picture of the image, one of them looks like me. So it's like, okay, you would think I would vote, because it's like, there's a fellow Black woman on the ballot and she's a judge, she's in the field that I want to pursue. But when I go into doing background reading on all of the judges, it's like, hey, yeah, no, I can't support that. So I think it tells you how much more we have to do for the next election, and that's any election.
Absolutely. So joining us is one of my co-hosts, which is Mr. Fransley Moyes.
First, I'm just so happy that I was able to hear your voice, Christopher, as well as Miss Dennis. That was refreshing. But I think it's, what do we do now, right? So you take a moment, you let it go, and then say, okay, what do we do next? And I like what you said. Let me do the research. Let me review, right, Ms. Dennis? Let me not just select somebody because they look like me, but let me select the person that also holds the values that I hold, that align with how I see, again, my values, my viewpoints. I do think, and I'm hoping that young folks who are very tied or very close to the elections. When I first voted, it was the same thing. My first vote was during Bill Clinton. Never forget it. My dad was like, we're going to vote. Ironically, my dad has always taken me with him to go and vote, right? So like, here's the ballot, here's the process. To the point where even going to school and we had the little voting booths and we had to figure out who you're voting for, understanding the process was important. And I think for many of you who were very close to the process, following the elections, probably going out and canvassing, I loved it. But that's just part of the work, because regardless of who won, you would still have to keep that person accountable.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it was the person that you really wanted to win. Yes. If VP Harris won, guess what? We still need to keep her accountable. This is what you said you were going to do. Absolutely. These are the things you say you were going to. We need you to, do those things. And we're just going to do the same thing in this, with this particular president. We got to keep him accountable. And then number two, we have to start mobilizing now. He did it when he almost took over the country, right? Well, tried to incite a riot. Well, he did incite a riot. Let's get that right. He incited a riot. So he started campaigning right then and there, by getting the word out, by getting in the streets, by letting people know. I mean, nonstop, he was in the news, whether it was good or bad. He was campaigning. And I think Democrats have to do the same thing, right? We have to get the word out to show and to tell why it's important to look at all viewpoints and vote for the person who has the best credentials, not just the person who looks like you. Because I think there are a lot of people who voted because they look like him, not because they align with the values and the viewpoints that they have. So moving forward, we just got to stay active, right? You got to get on councils. You got to be a part of our mobilize. We talked about that in our last kitchen talk. We got to mobilize, right? We got to start.
Francis is so nice.
You got to start.
Was no vote about qualifications.
It wasn't.
It was about we do not want a woman president, and we
And,
definitely don't want a black woman president.
and I think both of them are definitely valid. But that's where the mobilization starts, right? That's where we have to start working now, not waiting till, a year before the elections or 2 years before the elections. This is the time to start now. And guess what? We have midterm elections coming up.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to start thinking about the midterm elections and how we're going to affect change there so that we can be prepared for the next presidential elections. So I'm hoping that, yes, you had that conversation. Yes, you had that day or 2 days or a week of sadness, but it's time to step it up. It's time to get back in the game, and
I'm
it's time
still
to,
sad, and it's been a week and 2 days.
and guess what? You could be sad and still work. You could be
True.
sad and still push. You could be sad and still research. You could be sad and still say, you know what, we're gonna make a difference moving forward. Because the I don't even like to say his name. He wasn't sad, he was mad. Mad enough again to try to take over the country, mad enough to kill people to take over the country. So we got to mobilize, and we have to do it strategically.
That's a good
And
point.
so, and that again starts now. It starts in your classroom. It starts at your churches. It starts with your conversations with family members, right? And it starts with, okay, let's start looking at the next election, which is 2 years away.
So, Maya, what is the climate like? A week later.
Oh God. Okay. Yeah. One of the more is like very interesting things is that who do we have across the train tracks? We have both FAMU and FSU. TSC, we love you too. But the I don't say that there's a separation, but there is a bit of there's a different climate on both campuses, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like what Mr. Moise was saying, it was the fact of yes, we are saddened. Yes, more students here do want to mobilize and do want to start organizing immediately, but it's also like even a week after, there are still some resentments almost, if that's the really term to use, because when the day of the election, when it came to what was going on, we knew that being in Tallahassee, there was going to be a risk. And yes, you guys have all seen the text messages on social media. A few of my friends received them when it came to the, hey, you're on Plantation B. You're being picked up at 7 a.m. on the 13th. Please be outside and ready by the Brown van. Don't ask me why they picked a Brown van, but things like that. Yes, I'm being so serious. It was all over Instagram. And it's just the fact that people went out of their way to message, right? To go out of their way. And when it comes to even a week after the election, you would think hypothetically that Gen Z is more of this, hey, we're a little more progressive. Hey, we're a little more interested in policy that could help us. No,
Right.
no. We are just sometimes, although we have the potential to be more active, sometimes we're just as divided because there's this thing where people often go with the group idea and the group consensus because they're feeding off of their peers. So some students at FSU thought it was funny. I'm sure some of them might have been a part of sending said messages. Christopher is aware of when we had to go to a BSU meeting on FSU's campus regarding the chimps are going to chimp out situation. Not very funny.
What?
Not very funny.
What it was?
Okay,
What was it?
so quick side tangent. So I don't know why it did not get as much attention as it should have. But there was a situation a couple weeks ago at FSU's Market Wednesday where a student, I don't know if I should be saying names, but a student who goes there, that's ironically honors, posted on Snapchat a picture with students, some being persons of color, saying the caption, chimps are going to chimp out. Now, this was in reference to right before the D9 strolling, I believe. So as you can put two and two together. May not be the best at math, but I think that kind of goes together. So although the FSU NAACP jumped on it, HBC Inc., we did jump on like a solidarity letter and attending their conference. What we heard of was that there's an underlying issue, and this is just with FSU right there, right? So when you think about after the election, it's like FSU allowed this to go on. This kid was actually doing this for over a year now. He's had police reports, 18-minute documentary. I don't know how you get a whole documentary on yourself before you're even a junior, but hey. So it's just like individuals like him. There was a video actually. There's a video of a chimp, someone in a chimp mask acting like a monkey in one of their like areas, like inside like a restaurant or something on FSU. So it's like when you see actions like this being allowed, and then you think of the election, they are fine with the results right now because it's what we call a pacifier, where they are fine, they are content, they believe they had what they wanted, so they're not bothering us right now. You notice you haven't heard anything, oh, all of a sudden all of the action stopped now. But had it been the other way around, we would have been targeted more. There would have been more commentary. Even like it was a week after, actually. I was with some of my friends who do go to FSU. We went over to them to hang out, and obviously the signs on the dorms, were very there, and it's just like they're very proud of it. And I say, hey, whatever you believe in is what you believe in. But to the extent of using that to excuse like being derogatory to other students, to being disrespectful even, and it being allowed by the university, shows where we are at, right? So it's like we're supposed to be these HBCU students who, and this is just my personal opinion, we're supposed to be these HBCU students that are just here. Yeah, you guys were going to lose the election because we don't want a Black woman to lead, right? And da 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 da. But the truth is, it goes deeper than just what those elections results are. These issues were already occurring. They're pacified now, but they will start up again as soon as we start organizing. So, it's very interesting aftermath.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Honestly, to piggyback again off Mia, that with that situation, that was one of those situations where you can't really do anything about it. So you have the NAACP over there at FSU. You had a few other organizations. They were talking about it. We came up there. We offered our opinion. But once I seen that nobody was really like serious about like actual proactive action, keeping the foot on the gas and like actual change, it came clear to me like that was one of those situations where that was one person's mindset, which is probably more people on their campus mindset. That's just their mindset. With the propaganda they see on Twitter, propaganda they see everywhere, all the stereotypes they see about Black people. That's honestly, that's just where they're at nowadays. I'm not gonna say all of them, but you have a great population of them who are springing up. They feel like they can be more confident and be more bold in the way they think because you have a president who is operating in that manner. Um, it's sad. It is, it's one of those situations where you be like, oh man, wish they weren't, didn't see us like that or didn't treat us like that. But at the same time, you got to take it for what it is. We can't sit here, especially not in 2024, and try to drill I don't want to say somebody of a different ethnicity or a different race and try to drill them and be like, hey, you need to think about Black people more. You need to care about us. Da, 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 da. It's 2024. They know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly what they're saying. They don't care. Majority of the time, like pretty sure the person speaking, he has a white nationalist mindset. So like that's the political view he views the world in a white nationalist sense. So it's like those type of people you really can't waste your breath on. It's more so out organizing them. I think Malcolm X says it best. He says we're not outnumbered, we're out organized. And that's just one of those situations where you can't really attack. You don't want to be hostile. You don't even want to give off that image because then you're just proving what they're saying to be true. But it's one of those situations where you build up yourself. You build up, I don't want to say power, quote unquote, but you
Mhm.
go behind the scenes, behind the closed doors, and we come together, unite, get on one mind, one wavelength, that we can go out into the world and not only like just sit back and be passive in these situations, but actually, like, I don't want to say flex our power just a little bit, but nobody's gonna listen to us if we're just talking and we're doing the same old, same old. I mean, 2 years ago, I don't know if Mia was here, but 2 years ago, 3 years ago, they had a whole KKK, like, they were like whole board where it's like, join our KKK meeting, this, that, and the third, the address and everything. It was an official KKK flyer. So it wasn't just like, a cartoon, game. It was a serious flyer for what they're doing, organizing. Especially, then you have something, what, 4 months ago, you had the Proud Boys, the white nationalists, go up there on Monroe Street at the Capitol in that area and
Yep.
walk. So
They were there.
again, this is just he was like I said, that dude that had that comment at FSU. He's probably within one of those
He
organizations,
is.
exactly, who think that
They
way.
said,
Yeah.
just going to give a quick interjection to add what you're saying. There was something found on his page where he said, because he's actually in the medical track, and he had made a comment on, I guess, X, saying that he was planning to become a doctor to preserve white babies. And it's like, this is the type of mindset that we're actually dealing with. So
But
yeah,
that's what I'm
he
saying, though, Mia. I'm saying this mindset has been in America since the dawn of America. I mean, eugenics. What he's talking about is eugenics, and that's just something, a common theme. They want to control the black population. I mean, that's literally what he's talking about. Margaret Sanger, popular eugenics pusher. You have, I mean, presidents were eugenic pushers. I mean, like I said, so we're going against the beast. It's a mindset thing. So if we're
Yeah.
trying to come at it as, I'm a vote and this is just gonna change. Like, these people are gonna change their mindset. Even if Kamala Harris won, like I said when we were at the event, if Kamala Harris would have won, the racist remarks and etc. would have picked up. Like, once Obama won, I don't know if you guys remember in
Oh
08
yeah, absolutely.
when people he
Wait,
won
do we
election.
remember? Do you remember?
Right.
I was about
Right.
I was
Really,
like
Chris?
7, 8 years old. But you
How old
remember,
were
like,
you
they
at that
came with those.
point?
They used to come with those Obama masks and those like monkey masks and stuff
Yep.
like that when he was
but it's
president. When he was president.
terrifying.
Well, even
So
they didn't even consider him to even be black. So they even questioned whether he was black or not. So
Same thing.
what you guys are saying is the same. It's the same game. We just again have to be different. We have to mobilize different. We can't do what we used to do and think it's going to give us the same result, right? Because we've been doing it, the same thing, and
Right.
we're getting the wrong results. Again, we need more of our people to, one, be educated. Miss Dennis, you said it earlier. When you go into a voting booth and you don't know the information because it's kind of gibberish, because they wrote the information in a way that is hard for a layperson to kind of understand. We need people to be okay. I'm going to law school because I want to make that change. I'm going to become such and such because I want to be the change maker. I want to be a doctor because I want to be a pastor. Whatever it is, we need more of us to say, okay, here's how we're going to change the Christopher, you said it earlier, the mindset, right? And that mindset starts with us. We can't expect for them to change because it
Right.
may never
And
happen. We have to be the ones to say, okay, if we want change, we have to change. So let's change how we
Sure.
view education. Let's change how we view voting. Let's change how we view how we mobilize as a community, not just as one person going to vote.
Mm.
Right. So now I'm going back to taking some strategies from civil rights. We talked about this in our last session. They did mobilization, right? They talked with each other. They said, hey, we got to really think about how this not just affects us, but our future generation. We don't do that. And as a matter of fact, as we're talking about them, it's a lot of us, i.e., African Americans, i.e., Hispanic, i.e., any other thing that you want to state, who have also stated or have voted for, I can't even say his name right now, but they voted for him, right? Because of the mindset, because of not having that sense of, okay, who do we talk with and who do we unify with? Not just because the money is there. Going back to what's his name, Elon, who's like, I'm going to give you $1 million to vote, but I'm voting because, again, this is going to affect not just myself, but my community, right? And not just my community, the world. The world was literally watching to see who was going to win this election.
I
The
think
world was watching.
we do have to continue to push forward. We do have to continue to organize and unite and continue to do the work that we're doing. Um, but one of the things that I thought about, France, after our show last week, and getting really hot with you, was, even though you ever been in relationship with someone, not necessarily romantic, it could be mother daughter, it could be father son, it could be friend, it could be whatever, and no matter what you did, it wasn't enough. I think in some ways that is our relationship with America at times. No matter what we do, it's never enough. And I think that is one of the reasons why I get so heated when France says, we don't do this and we not that and we haven't done this and we lost this. It's never enough. However, seeing how resilient we are, we still keep pushing and moving forward, trying to get this America to see us, love us, consider us.
That's a good point. I think going off what you're saying, we are always fighting to be seen, to be heard, to be placed. And I'm still in my educational journey of learning a lot more about the history. But what I notice is that in more recent times, it becomes more prevalent of, diversity, meeting diversity quotas, trying to push for representation, trying to push for this, trying to push for that. But one of the main things is that, how are we really building our own community? And we were talking about this in my government class one time, was that sometimes what we do is that we try to reinvent the wheel when we organize by starting off from scratch, not taking inspiration from past effective movements.
Mm-hmm.
And instead, what we do is we place ourselves into these more difficult situations rather than just taking what was given to us and building off of it. And I was speaking on this with someone else I know, that one of the main issues is that we try to push for what we think sounds right. However, we have to remember that America, they play a certain game and we just have to play the game the same way, or we have to find a more effective way. So if they're playing chess, then we need to play, I don't know, like some weird version of checkers, right? Like, to me, I always say this in every conversation. What is always something important? Money, right? Money, it makes everybody go round. Clearly, Elon Musk thought it was really going to be effective in the election. But if you've seen the Black, has anybody in here seen the Black Project 2025 that's been going on? I know, Chris, you have. So very briefly, Black Project 2025 is this new initiative that's trying to reinvest and build back up the Black community, because one of the main things is that we pour so much out that we almost damage ourselves internally, right? And what we do is, instead of like what Christopher was saying in one of our meetings, investing in the Black community, investing in Black-owned businesses, really building ourselves up, we shoot ourselves in the foot by not taking care of our community. Now, I'm gonna like take off a point from what they said in the Black Project 2025 meeting from the other night. This is not a means of saying that we should be segregating ourselves from other people, or that we're trying to say that we're any better than any other race or anything. It's not even really about race. It's about our community being bonded. And they use the example of I think the Arabic community, and how they often buy from each other. They often build each other's communities because of how their culture works. So, in the same sense, part of being able to have a political standing is taking that economic initiative. In past movements, you've seen that you didn't often get a response until their sales started to go down, right? How are we going to get business back up and running? Because one of the things is that one of the culture things with us is shoes, right? Everybody's always buying Jordans. Everybody's always buying these like really expensive shoes from these companies that are not Black owned whatsoever, or don't even have the initiative to in place in Black owned, like any type of leadership, right? So it's like we put our money out into these companies, we're not feeding back into ourselves. What are we really doing? Right? So it's like we're kind of hurting ourselves in that way. But when you start pulling back and showing that our money is just as powerful as our vote, about 93% of Black women voted in this election for Kamala. And then I think it was 73% of Black men for Kamala as well, right? And that was a huge push in our community. That had a huge impact on, well, part of the reason why we were able to keep so close. It wasn't like it was just an immediate landslide. We were very close in this election. So in the same terms, using our economic power to influence the same way they influence these legislators, they influence these senators, would probably give us a better political edge, you know?
And I definitely agree with Mia because, like I said, this is why we started HBCU and why we're doing our thing on the topic of economics and everything like that. I think it's going to take, I keep going back to it, it's going to take a trifold approach. It's going to take three multifaceted approach in the sense of it's going to not just politics, yes. Economics plays into politics, yes. But we have to have a vision of where we want our community to go, where we want our morals to be. Because without that vision, without those morals, we can't unite. So that's why we're working with here with HBCU, because without us coming together and say, hey, we want stronger Black communities, not just saying that as a blanket statement, but what do we actually want? We want trades in our schools. We want trades in the public schools. We want a actual solution to gentrification and home ownership. We want like actually coming together, devising that plan of what we actually want in our community to change, and then having the initiative to back them, to use the money to back those initiatives up.
Christopher, you said it right. It's not just giving the vision blanketly. It's really detailing what that vision looks like, right? So here are the steps. Here's how it looks like. Here's what we not just want, but here's what we're going to build. So we're always waiting. And that's one of the things I wanted to share earlier. We can't just be reactive. We also have to be proactive, right? So there's a time to be reactive. There's a time it's okay. Because that happened, going back to the chess analogy, Ms. Dennis, I love it. I'm a chess guy. Just because of the reactiveness that we do, and we do it a lot. We're, again, a lot more reactive. Something happened. Trayvon happened. Okay, let's get in the streets. Oh, Kamala laws. Okay, no, we have to be proactive and start planning for the future, but have a clear, detailed plan of what it's going to look like. The Chinese have a saying where they look at the future 100 years from now. We're not even looking at next week. We're not even looking at next year. I just said it, the next 2 years. We need to start really thinking about what that future is going to look like for our kids. The other thing I wanted to share, Lisa, I love this analogy. I saw it this week, and you brought it right back to my memory. Relationships. And it's a lot of relationships. But the word in relationships is ship. And if the ship is not right, no matter what type of relationship you in, you got to abandon the ship. And sometimes we got to abandon ship and get on another ship, or build another ship to say, okay, we sailing east, or we're sailing north, or we're sailing south. We have to not just say, oh, we're mad. Oh, we're going to do something. No, this is exactly what we're going to do. We're
And I think
abandoning the ship.
I think another part of that is, like you just said, analyzing all the ships that are in play right now.
Yeah.
Like what like looking back until the okay, if the '60s was our biggest last time we made our biggest change, civil rights movement. What ships are still in play from then that are ineffective today,
Mhm.
and what ships can we copy from back then and implement today that will go forward and make it a better place for us? I
You,
feel like to say we have a lot of black organizations that are useless. And I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. They're useless. They're not doing anything for the
you're right.
community.
You're right.
They're not. And it's just the
Lisa,
reality.
you hear this? That's
That's just the
what I've
reality.
been saying.
There's a lot of them,
This
and
is
Thank you,
especially
Christopher. But that's not what he been saying.
oh
it's
Lord.
like especially on FAMU's campus. We looking at FAMU's campus. Like I see, there's a lot of organizations that distract the students, and you wonder why we can't get into a mindset
Sure.
where we're doing better, where we're doing more, and getting active. It's because these people that should be in organizations that are responsible. They're in organizations that are say, y'all might not like this, but you have organizations like such as the NAACP, or you have other organizations that put $20 million into voting, $20 million into mobilizing voters, and continuing to do this. Like you said, reinventing the wheel, doing the same thing every year, every 4 years, same approach every year. And I'm gonna be real, they're not hitting the target audience in an effective manner that will make that target audience get up and do something for themselves and go
And
out and change their reality.
I
Yeah.
think that's where we hit the wall, because a lot of those organizations we don't have. Let's go to the NAACP. You don't have that same type of vigor or that same type of membership that you've had when they first started, right? A lot of young folks are not saying, hey, I want to join NAACP, right? And when they do join, are you active? Are you a part of leadership? Are you, engaging, or is this just another membership, another ship that you join without actually providing service to that ship? Right?
Hmm.
Right.
It's like going to church, but you're not really doing nothing. What are you doing?
Exactly.
The, the,
Exactly.
the choir is singing and you just clapping, and you put your change in the offering, and you're like, okay, I did my good deed.
Hmm.
What are you doing? What
But
are
that's
we
what a lot
really?
of people do.
So we
That's
got to
what a
say,
lot of
hey, that's what they do. We join these organizations just to say we did it,
Hmm.
instead of saying, okay, no, I joined to again make an impact. So if I am going to join the NAACP, you know what? I need to run for president. I need to run for vice president. I need to run for treasurer. I want my voice to be heard. I need to be on the board, right? No matter which organization it is, no matter which type of relationship it is, we have to be actively engaged. We can't sit passively by, because then we're just being reactive over and over again instead of being proactive. At this point, Christopher, you're right. These organizations that have started, and I'm not just talking about the old ones. I don't even want to put the whole list out there because there's a lot. Even the new ones,
Yep.
if you are running this organization the same way, it's like driving a car, right? I'm not gonna drive a 1980s Buick when there's a 2024 Buick that I can actually drive. So
Why
it's
not? If the Buick still works.
and it's not working. It's broken down, Lisa. The Buick is
But
broken
no.
down, but you still want to drive the Buick.
So here's the thing. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I
Okay.
hear what you're saying. But why can't we marry the two?
And
Like
I'm saying
take
we are. We do.
like build on, because
Correct.
there's value. You wouldn't have the 2024
I would agree.
Buick if you didn't have
I would
the
agree.
84 Buick.
But here's
I
the
think
thing: we have a
we've
lot of
not.
people that's not trying to fix the car. They just keep driving it.
So I guess my point is that
Update it, paint it.
we always y'all just said don't reinvent the wheel, but you just said throw the other Buick away and let's get the new Buick.
That's not what I said.
Okay.
I'm
No,
saying
you
that.
didn't say that. You
No,
said
I'm saying that.
why drive the 84 Buick when you
Yep,
could drive the 2024 Buick?
correct. Because
Well,
again,
what are you doing with the 84 Buick if you're not driving it?
we
You
need
throwing
to
it
again.
away.
No, we need to again.
What, you just gonna sit it on the
Listen,
sideline and not look at it no more?
we need to again modernize. That's what they did with the company in the first place. The people who built the car said, "Hey, every year we're going to get better." And as a people, we should be doing the same. Every year, every
Absolutely. I
opportunity, we should
agree
get
with what
better.
you're
We
saying.
can't just stay in 1960
I
and
agree
think
with
that
what you're
changes are
saying.
going to be made.
But
So that's the analogy I was using.
there are things that worked in
Oh
1960
yeah, we're gonna still have a foundation.
that
We're standing on their
okay,
shoulders.
that's
Yeah.
all I'm getting
So
to.
So
now
what are you saying?
it's because of them that we're here. But
So
we
Lisa,
have to
what
again push the. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Miss
sorry,
Dennis.
I was trying to like see, Lisa, what was the perspective you were trying to like really bring out with the 1960?
I think sometimes in our wording and in our phrasing, we
Mm-hmm.
devalue the
Mhm.
beginning
Yeah. Nope.
and say we need something new or we
Right.
need something modern.
Yeah.
So we should prioritize the foundation and then add on to it with the new
I
features
I
of the
can deal with that.
2020 Buick.
I
So
can deal with
that's
that.
what we're looking at.
Yeah.
Because what I'm hearing from both of you, which are both very good points, is the concept that the reason the 1960s Buick is very it's vintage, it has some value. There were some very valuable features of it, which is why it set the model for future Buicks.
Correct.
However, it went but so far for the fact of because we're in a different time frame in a different era, we now have to add new features to the Buick. Not that we should ditch the Buick all over. Like, let's not get rid of the whole model, but
It's
let's
still a
update
Buick.
it with a couple more features. That way, we still have the effectiveness of what we did before, but we
Mhm.
tailored it to what we're dealing with in modern day. Because what I'm
Mhm.
hearing is that this in real life, pulling tactics from those movements from before, pulling what they utilized, what worked, what didn't work, and
Mhm.
then adding in new elements. For example,
Correct.
media is a huge part of today,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
Media was the difference between we're getting threats on election night to, hey, vote for this person, right? Hey,
Mhm.
here's information about this, right? How are we spreading our campaign? Or hey, HBCU Inc., we're having an event. We want you to come out, right? Like I feel like that's where we're going with the conversation almost is that
Mhm.
nothing's wrong with the older Buick, but
Nope.
let's update the Buick itself rather than buy a whole new one or throw the whole one away. Like Lisa
Right.
was saying, kind of blending the two.
I'm gonna be real with y'all. I hear what you guys are saying. Um, but like actually like knowing those history of those organizations, we have to be again and realize a lot of those organizations compromised along the way. And we're just
Now,
gonna we can't just sit here and have these conversations like these organizations are still serving the best interests of our community because in
they are
reality they're
not.
compromised along the way. And even if you go through some of them, some of those foundations of who started those organizations, how many non-black people founded and financed those organizations,
Sure.
you can you can you can
That's
see
true.
why they're
Sure.
on the track they are on nowadays.
Well, I
So
kind of disagree with that because again, in terms of mobilization, it can't just be us alone. There is value in ourselves, but then there are people who actually help that foundation, who help build that foundation, who ensure that where we are today, and they didn't look like you and me, but they believed in what you and I believed in, right? So it's understanding that that's not just from the past, that's actually currently now. There are people who still believe that, you have the ability, you have the skill sets. We are in line in terms of our values and how we see the world. So it's understanding. I think this past election did a good job of that, which is again separating us by saying it's black men not voting, it's black women not voting, it's
Divisive.
white, it's very decisive, it's very very there's a different word I wanted to use, Lisa. It's stronger than just segregation. Um,
Divisive.
and it's stronger than just being divisive. It's sinister. That's what it's so sinister, right? So I'm just gonna tell you that this guy who's next to you, who's been treating you well. I mean, nice. This is my neighbor. He's a great guy. This is my coworker. She's a great person. We have similar values. She sees the world very similar to the way I see the world. It doesn't have to be the same, but we are in line in terms of, hey, we feel that everybody should have freedom. We feel that everybody should have equal rights. They try to separate us in that way, and they do a good job of doing that. And because of that, we continue to kill ourselves or stop ourselves from progressing.
You know
So
what
the Underground Railroad would not have happened without certain people assisting. And I keep bringing Rosa Parks up. I brought her up last week. Without
It was Harriet Tubman that you brought up.
Harriet Tubman, even Rosa Parks. I got to bring Rosa Parks up because even with her whole life, there was people there who said, you know what, we're supporting you. We're supporting you.
Now, I'm going to insert this comment here because I get the concept of like Rosa Parks and people supporting. Now, I always will have to say we cannot forget who originally started that move, like that plan of the movement was Claudette Colvin when it came to Rosa Parks and the whole bus boycott. Because yes, that was a very significant moment in our advocacy and in getting where we need to be. But that's also where it goes to people picking and choosing what they want to represent. Because if we were going based off of just pure support, no matter who you are, what you look like, you're supporting a cause for the good, then they would have supported Claudette Colvin from the get-go. But because we've come into this culture of having to tailor ourselves to be more appealing, to be more, and I was discussing this with one of my really good friends the other day, was they tailor us to be not black, but black, right? So when it comes to like the Rosa Parks, she was the perfect example, right? Like it was hard to scrutinize her for, this, that, or this, that, and the third. She was what they wanted for the model movement, which strategically we can see why you did that.
Who wanted it for the model movement? But keep going, Mia. Keep going.
Okay, Chris. But regardless of who, we know who, which goes back to what you were talking about, organizations, and I do agree. There are some core parts, which is why I said you can't take everything from the old Buicks. There are some parts of organizations that were not fully right, because if it were fully right, they would have backed Claudette Colvin fully and wholeheartedly. She was, yes, she was young. Yes, she was pregnant. But hey, she still stood up for what was right at her age and at her situation before Rosa Parks modeled that, right? She put her life at risk. We could have never heard about her name. That model situation could have never existed. Now, yes, that was a bit of alterations from organizations kind of changing the storyline and you not finding out until after high school, or you have that really cool professor that tells you.
Right.
But even to touch on what Christopher was saying about the organizations, my first time on campus, I am seeing organizations. I'm seeing what I want to join. But, and this is me personally, I choose to join with intent, and I very quickly will detach from things that are not going anywhere. And I was talking to someone about this when it comes to organizations like on campus that are not as proactive, right? What are we doing for the community? What are we doing? Because nowadays, a lot of these clubs are social clubs, right? You do your community service, you put it on your resume, you put it for community service hours, especially when you want to plan to run for campaigning. Trust me, I thought, I was going to join. I was getting excited to maybe I'll run for senator. These kids were prepping before we even got into school for the fall. I looked at Chris confused because he's like, aren't you running? No, I'm sitting this one out this time, because they already start accumulating all these different organizations. But when you ask them about the value during the past election, I don't name names. I won't name names. But when questioning some of the potential senators for freshman year, when you ask them about their points, when you ask them about what do they want to achieve, unless they default to their main talking points, they will not they cannot explain to you the purpose, right? The reasoning, the intent, which then reflects on that administration, right? So when they're elected, those same representatives in our student government are going to say, hey, well, these were my main talking points. I got in based off my advertising, my campaigning, my
Mhm.
talking points looked good on paper. But when I'm really asked about it, I can't provide any information. That's going to reflect on my work. And that reflects on organization leadership, because now the leadership I see in organizations like unnamed, Chris said, there are certain organizations that are not as active. HBCU Inc., we were active when it came to even just trying to show support for the situation at FSU. There were
Mhm.
no other organizations active or really present from what we've seen other than directly impacted at FSU. If there were no other organizations we've seen that were even being directly active with constant work during the campaign period. You've seen them come in once or twice for volunteer work, but other than that, you don't really see them, right?
Mhm.
So that goes back to the important part of, we do need to maintain the core values of why we're doing this. What's our intent? What's our drive? What are the key points? How do we position ourselves to get into these positions of leadership? How do we act? One of this, and this could be a point on our 10-point plan, Chris, but one of the main things is reforming leadership, be it student or even local government, to soon enough, like through our government structure, making leadership about leading again, about managing effectively and communicating and really making it purposeful. Because nowadays, no matter what level of leadership you look at, there are very far few between that are meaningful and impactful. And those are the ones that get elected because they are authentic, but sometimes they are overviewed because of the lack of resources, and that everybody's creating a drama show out of leadership. It's not what it once was, and that's the part of the Buick we have to get rid of.
It
Is
is the climate that we're living in.
And the
right.
piece
Really
is
is.
that we
It
need to
really
get
is.
past, and this was said several times throughout the election. You know, it became more about personalities than politics,
Mm-hmm.
right? And a lot of times with leadership, we look at the flashiness, we look at the title, but we don't think about the work. We don't think about what it takes and the inner workings. And so, you know, as you're talking about the 10-point plan, and as you're talking about, as we are talking about moving forward, okay, what are the things we need to learn about policy,
Mm-hmm.
about practice, about people,
Mm-hmm.
so that we're not just picking the person because of the personality, right? This is not a high school prom where we're picking homecoming queen or king anymore. We need to really start thinking about, and again, we've talked about this before. It's not just the president; it's all the way up and down the ballot, from the superintendent to whatever. Even if the cafeteria lady was on the ballot, we need to again look at what is this person going to do, and how is it connected to the, going back to Christopher, the vision and the plan that we have laid out. Because if those two don't align, then we're not on the same page.
Yeah. So it is. I am so enjoying this conversation because it is very interesting to hear you all's point of view in this way. I love it. I love every minute of it. Um, and I think that as we continue to move forward and all the voices are heard, um, that change will come. And we have to keep pushing forward and keep moving forward. And when we talk about what the foundation is and building on this and building on that and building on the other, it's so interesting. One of the things that I just thought about was we are we are doing the things that we need to do or trying to do the things that we need to do, but these racist tactics and systems are the same. The
I,
same stuff that was going on when we was trying to get the vote is the same stuff that's going on now when we trying to do the vote, voter suppression, this and that and the other. So it just it's hard sometimes to articulate how um how I feel about this whole process of it all. And especially in our political climate, and how much, and I try not to say it, but how much distrust I have
Mm-hmm.
of this system. And for me, when we begin to talk down on the stuff that we've tried and we're trying and we're doing, it gets under my skin just a little bit, y'all.
And Lisa, and here's something else I wanted to share. If you have not been to the African American Museum in DC, have you guys been already?
Yeah, I've been.
I haven't
Christopher,
been.
you've been.
I'd like
Yeah.
Lisa, Ms. Dennis, you haven't been yet. Okay, you have to
not
go.
yet.
Put it on your plans. Make sure you go, because a lot of the things that we're talking about, you can see it clearly in the history when you walk through the museum. The same voice, the same struggle, the same cries that they were having in the 40s, in the
We have
50s,
it
in the
now.
60s, we're still having right now.
Yeah.
It was just amazing to walk through and see, oh, they were still they were asking people just to say, hey, I'm a black man. Respect me for being a black man. Respect me for being a black woman. We need equal rights, right? We need equal pay. It's the same conversation.
Yep.
It's the unification that I feel like we need to not lose sight of. And they were pushing it. But with every new cycle, once you start, Christopher, going back to that, once you start losing that vision, once that visionary person is gone, and nobody picks up the mantle to say, nope, here's the vision, here's the steps, here's the goal, let's keep pushing, then we start to water down what was laid, the foundation that was laid for us. And we can't. We got to go back and look at going back to our analogy, the master plan. What was that plan like? Yes, we're going to change it up. Yes, we're going to enhance it, but we can't forget it.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, make a trip, put it on your calendar, and going one time is not enough.
Oh no, I've heard you need at least 3 days.
Yes. Yeah, and even that is not enough. But
I
Take
have
a
heard
week
that.
off.
Yeah.
and keep going, because every time I've gone in, it was like, oh, I didn't see that. Oh, that was great. The information, again, sometimes we forget the history,
Yeah.
but we also have to remember this: we are making history.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to be a part of the process. We can't, again, just keep
Absolutely.
going to church and just here's the tithes and okay, we got to get in the choir.
But go to church.
You're on the usher board. We got going to church, but you got to get on the usher board, be in the choir, go in the stand. We got to do something besides just saying we showed up.
I'll take the opportunity to also brag on HBCU just a little bit more. We have 11 businesses within our organization.
Love it.
We have crochet businesses with clothing. We have car detailing. We have waist beads. We have hat makers. So we have all business solutions you need, and not only just
African
FAMU.
restaurant.
We're nationwide. So we have a Seattle chapter, we have a Howard chapter, we have an NCAT chapter, we have a Palm Beach chapter, we have a Columbus, Georgia chapter. Not only that, going forward again, we have our own community garden here at FAMU. We have our own garden. We have 2 plots of land at FAMU. We mentor at FAMU DRS weekly, and we garden weekly. So like going back into those, what we talked about being proactive, like I said, like today was gardening. Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday we garden. Wednesday we mentor. So like not only just being, because we're gonna have our political side of things. We already dropped our top policies from 2024 to 2028, and then we're about to drop our FAMU agenda, everything we want changed at FAMU. So there's a time to put those strategies together and say, hey, this is what we want, political. But like you said, going behind the scenes and having that due diligence ourselves to maintain our garden, maintain a mentoring program where we're going in and teaching these kids, these young like elementary school kids who don't know who Malcolm X is, who
Yep.
they know who Rosa Parks is, they know who MLK is, they know who those characters are, but they don't know who Malcolm X is, or let alone Elijah Muhammad or anybody like that who came in our history. So going in and teaching those core moments in our history, and that's what the African American Museum did for me. was basically it lays out all of our history before us. And I went in and I was in the mindset of, okay, I'm sorry, I may be like a little, radical, whatever they call it or whatever. But I came in, I looked at it like, okay, knowing our history, knowing who these people were, knowing who sold out, who didn't sell out, I was looking like, okay. So when we get to a point where we're writing our own history, when they say history is written by the winners, the victors. So when we're winners, which is very soon, when we're writing our own history, how is that history going to be told? And
So,
how
Chris,
that
I got
history
to
is going to
stop
be
you,
told,
Chris. I got to stop you
go ahead.
because you're winning right now. I'm proud of what you have stated, what you guys are doing, and you're writing history right now. Right now, you're causing change. Right now, you're making not just your life, but the lives of the people that you are working with. That's what history is. Write it down, make it plain, and be proud of that. Because you don't have to. I have a quote, and you don't have to wait to be great. Greatness comes in time. When is the best time to start?
Yesterday.
Right
And that's
now.
really, really important. Like, Chris, you don't understand. Even just like the mentoring at the school and just like the community, like having the Black businesses together, having the community together, I find it so important, especially with the education aspect, because I witnessed African history and African American history be taken away in my high school. After
Mm-hmm.
that bill had passed, it was literally, I took it the year
Mm-hmm.
after, replaced with Holocaust studies. That was the only class I had learned some of the things that I even know when it comes to Malcolm X, when it comes to even W.E.B. Du Bois and more. I would not have learned that in my history class. I would not have even learned that until I had come to this school. Because even if I had not come to FAMU, I would not have learned some of the things I have learned now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I fully agree with what Mr. Moyes is saying, is the fact that we're making change now, and it seems smaller because we're on a more local scale, but all that means is that it's stronger. It's going to continue to influence others. Wait till the other chapters start hitting their communities. Then it's
Mm-hmm.
just
Absolutely.
going to be HBCU Inc. This is where we are. Hey, we're coming here to do this. They know who we are and our mission. So as the years go on, we're only going to build up. And people are going to look back at that history and say, when they first started, what were they doing? We weren't one of the organizations that sat and talked around and just ate at Halasi Africa. We were the ones that had community. We have connections. We have bonds you cannot really break up, you know?
And two, also know that you could be the organization that sparks the other organizations to say, okay, let's get back to business.
Yeah.
Right? It's
Yep.
again the mobilization. It's
Yep.
not the separation. They want you to separate. They want you to say, no, you're not doing nothing. Oh no, you're not doing. Oh, it was you in the past. It was you. There are people who didn't vote because of something that happened. Well, I can't vote for Vice President Harris because of something that the Clintons did.
Yep.
What? We need to go back to say, hey, Lisa, you my sister, we are aligned. Maybe my group didn't do as much, but you know what? Based upon what you're doing and what I see you're doing, the spark has started.
Yeah.
Let's unite together and
Because
let's
we have a lot more. We have a lot more in common than we do have
correct.
differences.
Correct.
And that's
Absolutely.
that's always going to be the truth. And I think another thing that this election showed us, I know we said we have allies, we have a teammates and everything like that, but seeing how other voters voted, I think I don't want to say it's a line drawn in the sand, but we have to realize like until we unite together. If we can't unite together as Black people, we can't unite with any other group. So we have to start together first, unite with ourselves first, and once they see we're the winning team, they're gonna want to unite. That's just how it goes.
But that's why, Lisa, like, it's great that you even hold these type of rooms and these environments to have these conversations, because
Absolutely.
like, right, as like these conversations are being hosted in environments, people are going to start catching on, because like I said, it's that peer effect. So where one individual hears about it, then another individual starts watching it, then it starts spreading a message, and now you have these groups that are being proactive, that are communicating with each other, and the people are seeing that we're communicating with each other almost like back then. So now here we are talking we're going to start coming up with the same message. Now, instead of us just saying, all right, we're talking about it here, they're talking about it there, you're having these what will soon be nationwide conversations on the same page. So now other groups, yes, there may be a bit of a line in the sand, but now these other groups are looking and seeing we're not even making it about race anymore at this point, but it's a community, right? We're not saying that this is because what they're going to do is try to take race and make it like, oh, we're being segregationalist, oh, we're this, that, and the third. No, we are empowering our community, right? It's like when you see unions, right, with like the farmers and all this other stuff, they unionize as a group together. We are all people of color. We are uniting together as Black individuals to build our community and spread the same message and deliver those results going forward.
Listen, this has been Kitchen Talk CTC.
Conversations that cook.
Conversations that cook. I have so enjoyed this conversation. You guys definitely have to come back at some point, but you are absolutely right. This is one of the reasons that I started Kitchen Talk, was to spark and inspire others to have all types of conversations. Because until we sit down, like you guys say, come together, let's come to the table and reason together, and let's just continue to move forward, and move forward in as much positivity as we can, as much optimism as we can, and just keep shut up, friend.
She doesn't like the fact that I'm always optimistic. But
I do like it. I didn't say I don't like it. I do like it. I just don't like when you put us down. That's all.
No, I never put people down. I lift people up. That's my mission.
You know. But listen, if you are watching us on YouTube, hit the subscribe button so you won't miss another show. Make sure you turn on your notifications. If you're watching us on Facebook, hit the like button again. Turn on those notifications so you will not miss another show. We'll be right back here next Thursday at 9:00. This is one of my favorite things to do in the week, so I am always super excited. Thank you, Miss Dennis. Thank you, Mr. Mathews, for joining us on tonight. Great conversation. I appreciate you guys being transparent and pointing out your heart on here. So appreciate it. Fransley Moyes, you are my guy, even though we do get into it, but it's okay.
That's what family is about.
It's okay. So we are definitely going to see you guys next week, and thank you all for joining us. So good night.
Nice to you guys. Bye.
Let's talk. What you wanna talk about? Let's talk. What you wanna talk about? Kitchen talk. Let's talk. What you wanna talk about? Kitchen talk. Let's talk. Conversations that cook. Kitchen talk. Let's talk. What you wanna talk about? Kitchen talk. Let's talk. Conversations that cook. Let's talk. What you wanna talk about? Let's talk. What you wanna talk